Borja, por favor, cuando puedas poner la música, está silenciado.
Ahí la tenéis, ¿no? ¿Escucháis la
Vale,
música?
perfecto, sí, pues le damos y empezamos.
Ya puedo empezar, ¿verdad?
Adelante, Borja.
Oído. Okay, we start. Okay. We start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To our participants,
Play it.
we of course welcome you on our Session 5 Youth Leadership. We will be listening to the different presentations of our panelists or speakers. Just in case you have questions on their presentations, you can freely just type it on our chat box and we will address your questions or comments after all the presentations. Thank you and enjoy.
No tiene audio el vídeo, Borja.
Shruti from India. Guests, delegates and participants, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our World Blindness Summit 2021, Session 5, Youth Leadership. To provide quality education, opportunity for employment, access and express each one's rights, and become productive part of the society are just some, maybe, of the dreams of every individual with or without disability. Am I right? We are here today to witness the bigger possibility and opportunity for this dream to come into reality. Just recalling, 5 years ago, also in this same month, I am truly humbled and proud that during those time, it's in the Philippines, my country, where we conducted the first country champions program. Of course, with the support of our partners from ICEVI and Nippon Foundation and our local partners as well from the Philippines. It brought together so many attendees, including those from the government, universities, parents' bodies, those visually impaired graduates. Also, we cannot forget those fruitful and meaningful discussions that we had. Becoming change agents, coping with education and job situations, influencing legislations, and more. Encouraged by the positive impact created by this program, it's so great to know that ICEBI regions conducted a number of youth leadership programs after this in the last quadrennium. And the global ICEBI also included youth leadership as one of the strategies going forward. The belief of ICEBI that the youth leadership program is one of the key strategies for empowerment was so true. What are we doing with this webinar? it brings some of those participants who attended the youth leadership program to share their experiences on how their networks are making an impact in the education of persons with visual impairment at the country level, and also increasing opportunities for visually impaired students in both education and employment sectors. With this, friends, let us sit back and relax, watch and listen.
MediaPro, por favor, no se escucha. Borja, por favor, el audio no se escucha.
And again, studying Master of Social Work major in Social Administration at Western Mindanao State University. And he is the president of Youth as Advocates Philippines since 2019. Giving the time now to our first speaker, Mr. Mike Darrell Ocol.
Thank you so much, Miss Joyce. Hello, world. I am Mike Darrell Ocol from Zamboanga City, Philippines. I am 27 years old. I am a social worker by profession, graduate of Bachelor of Science in Social Work in 2019 at Western Mindanao State University. Currently, I am working as campus director at Philippine Student Alliance Lay Movement Incorporated, and at the same time studying Master of Social Work, major in Social Administration. When I was 15, I lost my sight due to Steven Johnson syndrome. I was so depressed then, but had slowly adapted to my new situation. My blindness had not only changed my routine, but more importantly, had taken away my self-confidence. Since the early year of my blindness, I had been exposed to the different activities of the Resources for the Blind, sponsored by the Nippon Foundation and ICEVI. And one among those programs which are so significant to me is the leadership-related ones. Because of these leadership programs, I was able to restore the confidence that I lost due to my acquired blindness. I can still recall the time when I attended the leadership training in 2011 conducted by the Resources for the Blind. We participants were all visually impaired, and we were trained by our facilitators in order to build confidence within our own selves. This training had honestly restored the confidence I lost, as I was able to hear different stories of leadership among blind individuals. From then on, I challenged myself to engage in social activities, and I started it at my small immediate social environments. I became president of the Supreme Student Government during my 4th year in high school, leading 1,000 of high school students. I became a radio commentator at DXEB 96.5 FM, representing the voice of the youth in our locality. During this time also, I used to act voluntarily and without quandary on grievances from my fellow high school blind students, even from other schools. Sending letters of request here, sending letters of complaints there. It's my predilection. And I acknowledge that without my confidence having been restored, I could not have done all those things as a visually impaired citizen. When I entered college, all the more I became active in advocating both for my fellow persons with visual impairment and for sighted individuals. Perhaps the second most significant activity conducted by the Resources for the Blind, ICEVI, and the Nippon Foundation was the Country Champion Program. We locally term this event as Youth as Advocates Philippines, or YAP. In 2017, this event was first conducted. I was a participant then to such event. We talk about the different barriers we visually impaired students are facing, and we ourselves identified possible solutions to solving such problem, including practical steps to resolving them. Along the course of that event, I discovered from the stories of my fellow participants that they enjoy the good and friendly environment they get in their school. People accordingly treat them without distinction from the sighted ones. Thus, they are not aliens in their own school. This situation had been totally different with what we were experiencing in my school. People in our school had a stigma that special education setting is the only environment for blind students like us. YAP had so inspired me to break this stigma. So I started to engage myself in higher level of school involvement. I became an active agent for any concern which would affect the students, and we did it by establishing movements in school. I thereafter became president of the university student government, thereby concurrently becoming the student regent. I was able to lead more or less 20,000 students from 50 campuses, dealing with students' grievances and welfare, managing a million fund, and associating with university top officials and some local and national government officials. The confidence that I was able to restore and the criticality of mind I was able to develop from the leadership programs of the Resources for the Blind, ICEVI, and the Nippon Foundation had become so instrumental to the pursuit of my advocacy, the advocacy of breaking the stereotype of people that blind leaders are not only for the blind community, but also are able to lead the general population. YAP is so precious to me because I see this program as an opportunity to gather people with visual impairment to see the overall reality of the sector, share experiences to one another, and agree together for a collective effort to undertake in order to contribute to the betterment of the sector. The beauty of YAP is that it was not only handed on to the Resources for the Blind for implementation, but the previous participants of the event were given the opportunity to participate in the planning, organizing, and facilitating effort of the Resources for the Blind and ICEVI for this event. Before the second holding of YAP in 2019, Ms. Marijoyce Lopez of RBI, Patrick James Vallega of Negros Oriental Province, and I, under the instruction of Mr. Marlo Lucas, worked hand in hand to formally structure YAP, as this event was said to be implemented annually. We structured YAP as an event which builds young blind leaders, and we confined our efforts in raising their awareness on the realities of the blind sector in the country, building their capacities through skills and insight development, and motivating them to pursue advocacy through conscientization and testimonies from successful blind advocates. We structure YAP with 4 areas of focus, namely education, employment, family and community, technology, and accessibility. Every year, we convene together old and new participants to see the realities of the blind youth sector in the Philippines, and we discuss current and relevant issues and possible solutions thereof. We also propose separate events exclusive for capacity building purposes and relevant to the needs of the blind youth. We install a focal person, each for the areas of education, employment, family and community, and technology and accessibility, respectively, to ensure efficiency in our efforts. This structure, which gives YAP a new face, has been observed since the year 2019. From a mere event, YAP has now been transformed into a process of building young blind advocates who shall become agents for social inclusivity. As president of the Youth as Advocates Philippines, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to the ICEVI and the Nippon Foundation for being so supportive in whatever activities we YAP officers would like to implement. I would also like to for the blind for being our umbrella for. Thank you, and may the Almighty bless us all.
Blind leaders are not just for the blind. In our minds and in our hearts. Mike, Daryl Okol, for sharing where you started and where you are now. For sure, there is more of Mike Daryl who will come out of their shell, who will bloom through their different skills and will shine in their chosen field of advocacy in the future, not just from the Philippines, but even in other countries after this event. Moving forward, my privilege once again to introduce our second speaker. She is 23 years old and currently at Kathmandu, Nepal. She has her postgraduate in psychology. Also a totally blind, but for sure an achiever in her respective field. I am now giving all the time. So excited to hear her presentation. Let's call in Miss Sanjia Shrestha.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. I will be speaking on my actions as a youth for empowering persons with visual impairment in context to Nepal. Working as a secretary of Women Wing at Action on Disability Rights and Development Nepal, ADRAD Nepal. Also serving as a secretariat at ICEVI Nepal. One among 300 young leaders at the Women Deliver. As a youth champion and peer counselor at Family Planning Association of Nepal, AFPAN. Also the co-founder and treasurer at Chain for Change, CFC. Gave me a wonderful opportunity to contribute for the sexual and reproductive health rights of persons with disabilities in particular and to other areas as a whole. 1.9% of the total population in Nepal just during mobility, in education, employments, in building of families, and so on. Conservative thinking always plays a vital role in almost all the aspects of life. I have been privileged to be closer with youth campaign of visual impairment. Once joining the youth leadership empowerment training in Nepal through ICEVI. I then got privileged to contribute for the project Advancing Sexual and Reproductive Health Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I have been facilitating the education of visually impaired adolescents and youths on menstruation hygiene, pregnancy, childcare, safe abortion, family planning, gender-based and sexual violence, and so on. Also conducted various comprehensive sexuality education events targeting adolescents and youths with visual impairment in and out of school settings. I have been showcasing the talent of visually impaired youths that generates enthusiasm to fellow partners. Individual, couple, and group counseling is one of the important parts to enhance mental well-being of women and girls with disabilities. I am also equally focusing on community sensitization and parent counseling. The nature of COVID-19 pandemic have enormously affected persons with visual impairment. Especially in lockdown, they were not able to get their basic needs fulfilled. Therefore, food packages and hygiene kits with sanitary pads, masks, sanitizers were distributed for the needy individuals and families of persons with visual impairment, and also conducted virtual sessions to aware on COVID-19, particularly to students with visual impairment. I am also a part of consultation team led by FPAN for the integration of comprehensive sexuality education in Education Sector Plan of Nepal 2021 to 2030, where my inputs were on disability-friendly comprehensive sexuality education. Also raising my voice, being a panelist in various speaking engagements and occasions. Conducted menstrual talk campaign on Facebook through Chain for Change that reached up to 35,000 and more people all around. Weekly group discussions on sexual and reproductive health through social media groups, for example, Messenger, WhatsApp, Viber, and so on. Using national mass media for spreading information, such as speaking in an advertisement that promotes sexual and reproductive health rights of persons with disabilities, or giving interviews. Also documented Wings of Consciousness, or documentary filmed by Chain for Change, that shows the initiatives taken by St. Xavier's College to make its social and physical environment disability friendly. Also, other videos of persons with visual impairment and their scribes sharing experiences on the challenges they face in the process of appearing exams. Proper education is very important to be aware of one's rights. Scribes are the individuals who assist persons with visual impairment to give their examination by writing down their spoken answers to the preset questions. I am using various forms of art, especially to sensitize society on sexual and reproductive health rights, gender equality, disability, and so on. I have written poems in English, Nepali, and Hindi languages and published on my social media pages. Also been directing, script writing, and acting in a drama and a short films that focuses on social issues. Moreover, dancing, painting, modeling, and adventure are also indirect ways to raise awareness, which also holds my highest interest. Looking back at my journey, I have many reflections. I learned about sexual and reproductive health rights, gender equality, meaningful youth engagements, media and communication, advocacy, and many more through the Digital University of the Women Deliver and various trainings and workshops through FPAN or DRAG and through other other sectors. Not only this, I strongly feel that as a youth, proper mentorship is equally important in the process of learning. My pathway of empowerment was with the graceful mentorship of ICVI Nepal and NADRAD. Always supported and mentored me to become a voice for the people living with disabilities. Throughout all my attempts, my team members, collaborations with wide networking helped me to work more and more effectively. Considering the intersectionality, insight into diversity, and understanding the ground reality is very important to amplify change. To conclude, I would like to say that openness towards learning, readiness in sharing whatever you know, and beginning from what you can is a milestone for empowerment and bringing about positive change. So begin with what you can. Thank you.
Begin with what you can. What a great insight. Thank you so much, Miss Sanjia. What can I say? It's really a wow. Your active involvement, even your strategies in those advocacy fields that you are currently involved in, will surely lead our fellows from Nepal into a more empowered community. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to all your initiatives. Now we come to our last, but of course, not the least, our third speaker. She is an advocacy officer of Sense International in India. Again, it is another achiever as towards the advocacy initiatives. I'm now calling on Ms. Shrutilata Singh, again from India.
Hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thank International Council for Education of Visually Impaired. Today, I wish to share, not just as a person with visual impairment, but as a person with progressive deafblindness. I live in a country which has second largest population on earth, and there are about 5 lakh people deafblindness living with varying degree of combination of both hearing and visual loss. As Helen Keller has famously quoted, blindness separates us from things and deafness separates us from people. Living with deafblindness is not easy. The biggest challenge we face is the issue of communication. Growing up, losing both vision and hearing was not easy for me. I was lucky to have an educated family who helped me during my school days. I did study in mainstream, but my school never gave me the support to be able to access education during that time. There are people with total deafblindness living in remote area who do not have any access to education. As you know, education is the key for growth and development. Even for general population, if they want a decent job, decent employment, it is important that they get themselves educated. In my case, education has helped me to reach where I am today. My story would have been different if I had dropped out of school because of deafblindness. And my story would still have been different, but in a positive way. If I had gotten the required support for accessing education from the school itself, I was never able to see whatever was written in classboard and never could hear whatever teacher was teaching in class from grade 4 onwards. But yet I got myself educated. Honestly, I think my school must have thought that I wasn't worth making the effort for, and so never paid much heed to my problem. Thankfully, my talent was recognized by Blind People Association. When I went there in Ahmedabad to check for some courses to be able to apply, and they gave me the required support, and later I got admission in diploma in physiotherapy. After admission, I just thought I had enough of not being able to do much. I had enough of the hopelessness feeling. Just looking at other students with whom I had studied in school, looking at them, and they had better options to choose from. I had already shifted from science to arts after school to get my degree in Bachelor in Arts as English majors. And now I was back in science stream. And I wanted to give my best. I wanted to make the best of whatever I had in my hand. And so, with support from others, support from everyone, I did it, becoming the first person with deafblindness in my country to do a paramedical course, even if it was diploma. And this was the turning point in my life. Now, 11 years after completing my school, I have already worked as a pediatric physiotherapist, and for past 1 year, I have been working as an advocacy officer at SENS India to empower other people with deafblindness in my country. 11 years back, no one would have thought I would be able to do this much, but yet I am doing. Now, reflecting on my own experience, of school days, I realize how important it is, how much important it is for people with disability, young people with disability, to know about the barriers they are facing, to know about their own rights and work on it and be on their own. It must be noted, it's going to give us what we need until we ask for it. That's what being a to be able to fight for what we need, for what is our right. I feel that it is very important for young people to have their own network through which they can share informations, be with each other, and also they stay in unity and fight and stay united. Through network, they can fight for their rights, be it for an individual or a community as a whole. The dependency is more on a person who can provide support or interpret for them because of the dual sensory loss they are facing. Most of the time, this support and interpretation is provided by family member or a special educator. I have observed that for people with deafblindness, for most of them, connecting and socializing becomes very difficult because of the communication issue. I have also observed that those people with deafblindness who had a good education are doing much better. In fact, they are role models and they know about their rights. They are able to fight for what they need by proper education I do not mean that we should be sitting in mainstream class full along with other kids. But I mean to say that we should be able to access the information, whatever information is being shared in classroom. We should be able to access knowledge, skill knowledge, and the academic knowledge. We should be getting experience. Since the pandemic has hit us, everything has shifted online. And I have been holding online meetings with people with deafblindness with the help of their support person to share information with them, and also so that they do not feel left behind and isolated the way I used to feel when I was in school. And even to achieve this goal, I have been educating myself by attending various workshops and webinars to understand the problems and barriers we all are facing, and also to bring in proper solutions. Many of the young people now want to give up on education because they simply think they will not be able to cope up with their deafblindness. In that case, I have to motivate and keep encouraging them not to give up education. Instead, seek reasonable accommodation to be able to complete their education. Education is the key for bringing change. If you want to bring in a big change, you have to first get yourself educated. Nowadays, technology is so advanced that nothing can stop us from getting ourselves educated. Remember that investment in education can pay off well with interest. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shruti, for that presentation. Once again, she proved the challenges or those barriers around that might hinder us to fulfill our dreams are just present, but with determination that we can be victorious over it will make us a winner. Secondly, it is always true that the best advocate is someone who understood the different situation or status of our fellows. She was able to perform her task, formulate her ideas, and implement all her advocacy projects was made possible because she has her firsthand experiences on those different areas of advocacy that she is currently involved in. Lastly, her emphasis on the importance of acquiring continuous education is so relevant today. As she said, education is an investment that truly has a long-term impact, not just for ourselves, but even to our family, community, and the whole society. With all the presentation we had, truly a bigger picture of where each youth with visual impairment is heading to gets clearer and clearer. All these because of the initiative of ICEVI and its partners to support us and might lead us for a greater and bigger opportunity in the future. Personally, before we end, I want to thank ICBI for all the different programs and projects that you have been implementing to provide us quality education that really empowers each one of us. When I was still a student, I've already one of those visually impaired in the Philippines who benefited the different trainings, loan of assistive devices, and a lot more that has helped me develop in my education and also the different aspect of my life. To be an advocate for my fellows in our country now and also mentor them to be able to do more than what I can do is really my joy and my dream for my fellow visually impaired. Thank you for making me or for making this possible for me, ICBI. Where I am now, what I am doing now is because of all your efforts and initiative. Once again, thank you very much to our panelists, to our speakers. Thank you for inspiring us with all your experiences, different stories, different experiences, different reflections that you gave to us as well. So, I think we are all ready to receive the questions from our audience. Please just feel free to type it on our chat box, and somebody is with me to read your questions for our panelists. Again, our panelists, Mr. Mike Darrell Okol from the Philippines, Miss Sanjia from Nepal, and Miss Shruti from India are ready. Ready now to answer your questions.
First question, dear panelists, can you share the name of panelists and the screenshots of the program? Thank you in advance.
All right, so I think that would be, they are requesting us to have the names of the panelists shared on the screen, if I understood it right.
Yes.
All right.
Do I read the next question, or do you need time to?
All right, please read the next question, sir, and I'll.
Okay, this is from Kovacs Christina. Do you think that positive discrimination, for example, extra quota, will help in increasing the number of youth leaders with disability in the student unions in universities?
All right, may I request our three panelists to please unmute your microphones and let us try to answer the questions of the audience. Sir, can you please repeat the question, this recent question? Thank you.
Yeah. Kovacs Christina asks, do you think that positive discrimination, e.g. extra quota, will help in increasing the number of youth leaders with disability in the students' unions in universities?
Anyone from our panelists who wants to answer? So she is talking about the discrimination on the different universities. And I think she's saying about positive discrimination will increase. Is there a possibility to our technical support to unmute the microphone of the person who's asking the question so we can address the question more? I think we can ask her to directly ask the question to our panelist.
I think there is no option to unmute
no
microphones. So.
Okay. Yeah, so with that question, I think discrimination in different universities is really is still happening. where wherever we are, but no, if there's no such thing as positive. Am I right, sir? She's talking about positive discrimination.
Yes,
All
it's
right.
talking about um, certain numbers of places that are reserved for people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And,
What of course what we want is an open doors for all of us. No separate universities or no separate schools, but an open opportunity for everybody to go in the desired school or university. All right. Any thoughts from our panelists? Sir Mike?
uh, it says here the continuation. I'm talking about how to increase the number of leaders with disabilities in students' self-governance bodies in
Oh.
universities.
All right. So there. Thank you so much for clarifying the question. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, since can I ask Mr. McDarrell to answer this since he has an experience of becoming a leader in his campus. Sir Mike,
I
the
will,
possibility
yes,
of increasing leaders with the disability in different universities.
I
How?
think the way I understood the question is that there are some universities who reserve slots for persons with disabilities, and then that is a positive discrimination in a sense that
Okay.
there is no standard, there is no standard anymore. And for me, of course, that itself will really increase the number of leaders because it opens the way for more persons with disabilities to get in campuses. But based on my experience in our school, there are only few persons with disabilities who could possibly be admitted in our campus because they are really strict to compliance with their standard. Therefore, if a person with disability cannot pass the entrance exam, then there is no way for him to be admitted because the same standard, the same measure that is given to persons who are sighted is also the same measure that is used for persons with disabilities.
All right. Thank you so much, Sir Mike. Hope that we were able to answer the question. All right. Let's go. Let's proceed with our next question.
Okay, next question from Leon Labial. As an advocate for youth with visual impairments, what are the steps that you are taking to help push and promote an inclusive society?
All right. Steps that youth are taking now to promote inclusive society.
Thank you
Again, thoughts
very
from our
much for this. Thank you very much for these questions. In case of persons who are visually impairment, the youths have been, especially I have been currently as we are having the COVID pandemic, the country has recently loosed up the lockdown a bit, and we are currently working on a group work, such as we have a weekly group discussions with persons with, especially with women with visual impairment. We discuss on several topics. There in the discussion, each of the participants share their experiences related to certain issues we have in discussions, and we learn from one another, and the participants in the call also share learnings they had to their friends, to their family members. So that's one of the way we are working currently. And we are also focusing on comprehensive sexuality education, where we conduct several sessions virtually via Zoom to aware the visually impaired women on menstruation, on how to use menstruation cups, on how to focus on the sanitations, menstruation hygiene, on sexuality, and so on. So each and every sessions we had, we also focus on discussions, and especially also on capacity building of the participants, so that the participants we had also build their capacity to help their friends in their surroundings, to educate and aware. So in that way we are also working. So hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Sanjia, how about thoughts from
Well, if
Miss
I may
Shruti
also,
or Sir Mike?
if I may also add, here in the Philippines, I will not be speaking on behalf of any organization, but I will be speaking on behalf of the nascent organization that we established, the Youth as Advocates Philippines. Our effort for this, especially persons who are seeking for jobs, especially during this time of pandemic. So the first thing that we do is to really increase the awareness, because unless people have not acknowledged that there is really a problem, then they would not move forward. And so the first step that we do is to really introduce to them, disclose to them the realities that the problem of one is the problem of all, and the problem of all is the problem of one. And then afterwards, we mobilize support from the environment in order to address the needs or the concerns of people with visual impairment. And especially by next month, we are looking forward to implementing a new program, a new event that would really help the persons with visual impairment to acquire employment or any source of livelihood during this time of pandemic.
Thank you, Sir Mike. So we look forward on that in our country. Miss Shruti, do you have thoughts that you want to share to our audience?
Okay, should I read the next
All right.
question?
If none, maybe we can proceed with our next question. Thank you, sir.
Okay, what has been your biggest challenge as a blind physical therapist?
All right. For our physical therapist, your biggest challenge. Anyone from our panelists who have experience or has the experience of doing or being a physical therapist? Mhm. Okay. So based on the feedbacks that I am sometimes hearing from my fellows in the Philippines, of course, right now that it is the time of pandemic, it's truly it's really a big challenge for them because
Hello everyone, good evening. Sorry, I apologize for the delay. As you know, I am a person with both vision and hearing problems. So it is difficult for me to find it if question was for me. So the problem is that we have to depend more on touch. And as a person with both vision and hearing problem, for me it was more difficult because I had to depend on someone to interpret whatever patients was saying. Blind people can be trained for and doing assessment and other things. but managing equipments, machines which do not have audio output is much difficult. But in today's innovative machines are very much advanced, and some of them have audio output which can be done. But in case of serious illness, people with blindness are not allowed to do this therapy. So another challenge is that people do not trust us because we have disability, both vision and hearing. They are skeptical of a blind or hearing impaired person giving them therapy. So what it is important to bring confidence in ourselves, as well as bringing confidence in them also. Thank you for that question.
Thank you so much, Shruti. All right, so what she is saying is bringing with us the confidence, of course. That truly is what we need in every field that we're going in or field that we're going to choose. All right. Thank you again. All right, let's proceed with our next question, sir.
A question from Tashara Jong. To the panelist from India, what recommendation would you give to students with deaf blindness who lack family support, as well as access to special educators or other accommodations?
Hi, I am Deepak from Sense India, and I'm supporting Shruti in interpretation. Can you repeat the question, or can you write down the questions in the chat box?
The question is, to the panelist from India, what recommendation would you give to students with deaf blindness who lack family support, as well as access to special educators or other accommodations?
Wait a second, what recommendation will you give to student with deaf blindness in India, and what suggestions will you give who lack family support and other accommodation? This is for you to answer.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Shruti.
Thank you again for this question. My recommendation is that first of all, from my own experience, I know that family and community support is very much important, and so I strongly recommend the family to accept a child with deaf blindness and give them as much support as possible. If family support is not possible, then organizations should support. So this support needs to be, and other than support, there needs to be ensured total communication. That is, what we lack is that communication problem. I mean to share that because of dual sensory loss, we often do not get informed about everything. Others who have only vision impairment hear and understand everything, and people with deaf blindness who are not able to either see and hear, we face more of communication issue. And so I recommend that to every student with deaf blindness, so this recommendation is not just for student but whole family and community to give this support which we need. Our individual needs are different, and it is important that family should be aware what deaf blindness is and how to provide this communication and other support. In my work, I have come across many other students with blindness, have either financial or family support, and they struggle a lot. And in reality, they are very bright and talented. So I keep encouraging them to follow their passion and give their best. And apart from all this, I keep recommending that they should not lose their confidence. Confidence and mental well-being is the key to not to have this willpower to do whatever we want to. And other than that, support is the thing that we need the most. Thanks again.
Hi, thank you so much, Shruti, for that encouragement, for that recommendation, and for your for that continuous motivation to each one of us. All right, let's proceed, sir, with our next question.
Next question from Eric Rodriguez. How do you think we can create a network of young leaders, blind young leaders worldwide? But I mean a network that works together in a permanent way. Greetings from Chile.
Thank you. All right, so thoughts from our panelists. How can we create or groom more young leaders?
Hello.
Yes, sir, Mike.
The struggle, I believe that in organizing advocates for this purpose, the first thing that we have to address is to make everyone, persons with visual impairment, stable in terms of their employment. Because unless they are stable, they cannot really advocate for others. So that's the challenge for me. Because we understand that if I am going to spend my whole life in advocating full time and I am not financially stable, I am not economically stable, how can I survive? How can I support for my family? So the challenge here is, number one, is really to make persons with visual impairment or disabilities as a whole stable, economically stable, and then they can already proceed. But even here in the Philippines, even if we are not yet somehow fully economically stable, but I believe that once we have the heart to advocate for others, we can make it possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Mike. So we have to make sure for first, of course, the stability or becoming stable for us visually impaired. But of course, we can also have, like what Sir Mike had said, we can also have the heart to be an advocate for ourselves and of course for our fellows. Any more or any other thoughts from Miss Shruti or Miss Sanjia?
I would like to add something on to what Mike has said.
Sure.
I think advocacy is all about. I think we can also try making change from wherever we stand. Big change is only possible from small initiatives, especially initiated from the ground level. So wherever we stand, wherever we belong, at least try to make change. Try to make other people aware and self be aware. I think three things here is very important, which I also mentioned in my speech. Openness towards learning. We have to be open towards learning. And the second thing is sharing whatever we know. We have to share among other people what we know. We have to open ourselves. What are our problems? How can other people support us? And also, how can we support other people? And the third thing would be always start from what you can. Start from what is doable for you. Obviously, when you start from there, the pathway ahead will be open. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Sanjia. All right. Maybe Miss Shruti has her thoughts as well. Um, is she going to give her thoughts for us, sir? Sir, for the translator, or
Yes. Next question from
I'm just
Chin.
checking if
Oh,
Miss Shruti will also give her thoughts, and I'm just trying to
oh,
ask
sorry.
if
I'm also a
from
translator. That's why.
from her yes, from her translator as well.
Can you repeat what Shruti has to speak?
Maybe yes. Okay, sir. Please.
How do you think we could create a network of young blind leaders around the world? But I
How
mean a
how
network
how
that
do you
works.
fare? Once again, how do you?
How do you think? How do you
Okay, how do
think
you?
we can create a network of young blind leaders around the world? But I mean a network that works together in a permanent way.
All right. So just for the information of the audience, of course, we have to translate it to Miss Shruti.
Yeah, because she cannot see. She can only see 5% of one eye, and she can't
I
hear
understand, sir.
anything. So I'm typing on the Skype, and once she read the message, then she comes online. So she is there again on the screen. You can see. Yeah.
Yeah, we just want her to give her thoughts as well, of course.
Hello.
Yes.
I am still not the world leader, but maybe leader in my country. So, I, well, I am still learning, and this is just the initial phase. But when I am able to motivate a parent or a person with deaf blindness, it makes me feel very interesting and motivated to work further and give more effort to bring more change. When I see a parent who are depressed because of their children who have deaf blindness, and they come to me and share their emotion that my story brings some hope, it makes me feel really good and filled with happiness. And that's exactly what I want in life, to bring change, to bring more awareness, and these emotions that others share always makes me believe in my work, and I want to give my best.
Right. Thank you, Miss Shruti. So, sir, do you still have questions?
Yes, a question from Chinda Min. Dear speaker, I'm Chinda from Cambodia. I would like to ask about your experience with regard to your postgraduate studies. Have you gone through English test?
All right. For those who had their post studies, have you gone with or English test? How are you able to handle or manage those all your post studies concern?
Hello.
Yes, sir, Mike.
I just took my graduate school admission test last November 2020 for my Master of Social Work in Social Administration, and the system for which it was accomplished was that they provided a someone to read to us the questions. It's very easy after all because we just have to listen to the reader, and our answers are just dictated because the school is not permitting the questionnaire to be embossed, or if they are permitting it, then the teachers are really find it hard to really find time to translating it or transcribing it. So in order to avoid doubts as to the accuracy of the result, they just provide reader, and then automatically once the reader has read the questions, then automatically the examinee is going to give the answer. Then she'll be the one to shade the questions and the answers in the questionnaire. So this to us, especially in our school, is a challenge to for us to advocate for until now. So that's the thing that I can share to you.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Mike, for those thoughts. We hope that we able to answer the questions. Any more questions, sir? I've seen questions here related to
Yeah.
about discrimination at work. So,
Question from Heidi Valencia. Hello, I'm writing from El Salvador. My question is, in the leadership actions you develop, is there an equal participation of young women with disabilities and young men with disabilities?
okay, so when it comes to leadership, is are the youth involvement now visible? I think that's how.
Is it equal between young women and young men? That's
Yeah.
what they are asking.
Mhm. Okay, sir, can you please repeat it for the
Yes.
translator of
Yes, the
me as
question
well?
is, in the leadership actions you develop, is the participation of young women and young men with disabilities equal?
Okay, is the participation of young women and young men equal? Uh, for you, Sir Mike, is it
Yes, I
equal
think
in
I'll
the
to
side
break
of youth as advocates?
to break the silence, I'll go first.
All right.
Placing it in the context of Youth as Advocates Philippines here in the Philippines, I could say that there is really an equal participation because the organization of the Youth as Advocates Philippines, we do not only limit it to men, young men leaders, but we also have women that could really bring
Oye, por aquí,
about
uno de los
change.
seminarios dice que están
That could
escuchando
really
español, pero pues me imagino que será porque han puesto la interpretación, ¿no?
Yes, sir. I think.
No, no. No, no, porque no es no es en el que yo tengo el micrófono abierto, así que.
All right. Can Mr. Mike continue with his answer, sirs? Mike, I think you can continue. Okay. So that's in the side of the Philippines. Mr. Mike Darrell said that we had an equal representations of men and women in the organization. How about with with Miss Sanjia? How are you doing with your leadership in your place? Is it equal? Do you have representations both with men and women?
The word equal is itself contradictory. So in context of sexual and reproductive health, the taboos attached to sexuality and disability, as if women and men with disability have no sexuality. So in this context, men with disabilities are privileged, and women with disabilities have the double stigma, being a woman and being a disability. So in context of leadership, in my session, in my events, there are no such discriminations such as women and men. Whenever I conduct the session on menstruation hygiene, the participants the male participants and women participants both are equally interested to learn, because menstruation is not only about women issues, it is also about men issues. Pregnancy, it is not only about women issues, because women doesn't only become mother, the couple become parents. So both are, so I'm focusing on these areas. Whenever we have sessions in any of the topics, male and female would have both the genders would have participation. So thank you.
Thank you, Sanjia. All right, just to be sent to check or be on our time. Maybe we can just summarize. We can just entertain one more question, sir. We're
I think
just
Shruti is ready to speak.
all right. Thank you so much, sir, for informing us. Shruti, please give your thoughts.
Hello, I hope my voice is audible. No, my internet connection
Yes.
is very loose, so I just joined from my mobile.
Yes, you are clearly heard.
So
Miss Shruti, please go
now
ahead.
here in my country, we from Sense India are trying to involve people with deaf blindness and their support person in many events like United Nations side event at conference of state parties and other campaigns like choose to challenge during the International Women's Day. This way, we try to ensure more participation. Also, in gender equality or generation equality, we have been trying to involve them in campaigns by video sharing and on social media posting. The and there are other way to ensure it by having both men and women with deaf blindness share about their views on social media, or they also share their concerns, views, etc.
Thank you, Miss Shruti. All right. So to summarize, Um, I'll be posting my email address for other questions so that I can refer you to our panelists. I think you have more questions. You have a lot of thoughts that you would want also to share with them, or some thoughts that you would want to take or get from them. So I'll be sharing in the chat box my email address so that I can refer you to our panelists. So truly, youth now are leaders of tomorrow. Yes, there is more work to be done. There's a lot of work that needs to be settled, things to check, things to make sure that everybody is stable. But with unity and with the heart of being an advocate for our fellow visually impaired and even other disabilities, surely there is always a possibility. Once again, to our panelists, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for inspiring and motivating us. And to our participants or attendees, thank you so much for joining us in this Youth Leadership Session 5. May you all become more empowered and let us continue to enjoy the rest of the summit. Have a nice day to each one of us. Thank you. Maraming salamat po and mabuhay.